Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Last year I did a video where I read some of the best books of 2023, or basically some of the winners of the Goodreads Choice Awards from 2023. And I had some mixed results. There was a few books that I really loved, and there was a few books that I didn't quite like. Really excited for this next year, 2024, to see what books win, and then I'll do that video again where I read some of the winning books. There's 15 categories this year. I don't know if I'll be reading the winners from all those categories. Probably not. That's kind of expensive, but hopefully I can get quite a few. That being said, they have already started like the voting. I think it's still in the middle of the opening round for voting in terms of this year's Choice Awards. And I thought it would be fun to kind of take a peek at some of the categories and maybe try to guess some of the winners. This will be especially interesting because I don't really read a ton of the new releases every year just because it's kind of expensive to buy hardcovers or new releases, and I already have such a long TBR to catch up on. But I have read a few from this past year, so I'm interested to see if any of those will be in the categories, and if they are, I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts on them. That being said, it's November 21st today. The final round for voting starts on November 26th and ends on December 1st if you're interested. And then the winners are announced December 5th. So we will be getting not necessarily a part 2, but a follow-up video. Well, it'll start on December 5th when I look at the winners. Without further ado, let's get into these categories. Right now, I have a little thing set up on my notes app, a little table with the categories and my guesses and what the winners will be. Obviously, I don't know those yet. We will, I guess, start with the fiction category. I have not read a single one of these books. I've read from some of these authors this year, actually. I read from Dolly Alderton. I read Everything I Know About Love, and I really liked that one. I didn't give it a rating because it is a memoir. I didn't hear very good things about Good Material, though, so that's interesting that it's up here. This year, I also read from Ellen Hildebrand. Swan Song is the book that's on here, but I read... oh dear, what was it called? I don't remember. I'll put the title somewhere on here, but I did not like it. I gave it a 1 star. I pretty much almost DNF'd it. I skimmed the last bit of it because I didn't like it. I didn't like the characters. I don't know. It was not a good time, not a good read for me. So it's tough because I know a lot of people really do like Ellen Hildebrand, so I'm not sure how that'll play out. Leanne Moriarty also had one of her books turned into a TV show this year. It's like Apples Never Fall or something along that lines. I'm curious if that got more people reading her book. I heard Intermezzo by Sally Rooney was actually really good, and that's one of the books that I do want to read, so I wouldn't be mad if that one won this category. I heard a little bit about Blue Sisters and The Wedding People, but not very much, so I wouldn't be mad if those won the category either. For the winner, though, I don't know which one I want to guess. It's in between the Sally Rooney book and Dolly Alderton's book, because these are kind of like based off of popularity, it depends on how many reads each one has. You know what I mean? Like how popular the book is, that's most likely going to be the winner. I'm not sure how many ratings these books have. I thought it might show me right here on the page, but it doesn't, which I thought would be helpful, but oh well. So I think I'm going to put in my final guess as Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, just because I've heard better things about that book than I did Good Material by Dolly Alderton, and I think those are probably the most popular authors on here. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, though. I don't know. Like, obviously, I haven't read any of these books, so I don't know. But I think that's what I'm going to put in for my final guess. All right, let's move on to historical fiction. I do know I have one book that I read from this category this year, at least, and that is The Woman by Kristen Hanna. That book is about nurses during the Vietnam War, like women who went to Vietnam to serve as nurses and stuff like that, and their experiences both there and also when they come back home. Oh, I read 2 books this year from this list. The other one is The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon? I don't know how to pronounce her name. That book is about a midwife around the early 1800s, and she's kind of caught in the middle of this sexual assault trial. Basically her experience as a midwife and all her journals is what like plays a role in this trial. So that one is based off of a real person, so it's based off a true story. The Woman by Kristen Hanna isn't. I gave The Woman 5 stars. I really liked that book. I think Kristen Hanna did such a good job of setting the scene of like being in Vietnam. And then The Frozen River was really good. I think it was just a little slow in a few places. We had these flashbacks that kind of interrupted the narrative, which made it feel even slower. Both were really strong picks. In terms of the winner, I'm not sure. I think I'm leaning towards The Woman by Kristen Hanna. I know that Kristen Hanna is getting a lot of popularity lately on Book Talk and BookTube with The Nightingale and Firefly Lane. I think there's one more. So I think that she has pretty good odds. So I think that's my guess for historical fiction. Next, we have mystery and thriller. I'm seeing one book on here that I have read, which is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. This book is about a girl who starts dating a really handsome doctor and then kind of starts having suspicions that he is a serial killer based off of, I don't know. She starts thinking that he's a serial killer. That's basically the gist of the story. I don't remember what I rated this one. I know it wasn't very high. I didn't quite guess the end, but I also thought that it was really predictable. Like, it wasn't shocking. I was expecting like a plot twist, which is what I feel like I really felt from Frida McFadden last year when I was reading some of her books, like Never Lie and The Housemaid. Like, those ones were really shocking for me, but the more I read from her, the more I feel like her plots are predictable. So I just feel like The Boyfriend really didn't do anything for me this year. Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth was really popular, but I didn't hear good things about that book at all. First Lie Wins, I heard was really good. The Teacher by Frida McFadden I haven't read, but I can imagine Frida McFadden, she won last year with The Housemaid is Watching, so I can imagine that she could get a lot of votes and win. There's a Riley Sager book on here, Middle of the Night, which I think also has potential, and then a Lucy Foley book, The Midnight Feast, which I also heard was really good. So I'm not quite sure which one is gonna win. I want to say it's probably one of the Frida McFadden books just based off of her popularity right now. But Riley Sager is also very popular, and First Lie Wins was a book of the month pick. I think I'm going to go with one of the Frida McFaddens, and I'll probably go with The Teacher just because I feel like The Boyfriend was not very good, so I don't picture a lot of people really liking it. I haven't heard many thoughts about The Teacher, but I feel like her popularity would really push her through. If I'm wrong about that, then I think the other winner could be First Lie Wins, but I think I'm gonna lock in with The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Next we have romance. This one I feel like I have read quite a few books from this. Let's see. We have, okay, maybe not. I've read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I absolutely loved that book. I gave it, I think, a 4.5 stars. I read it in my tier ranking Emily Henry books. It's basically a very rom-com vibe where the love interests were actually their significant others left them for each other. That doesn't make sense. I know every time I try to explain it, it doesn't make sense. It actually gets more confusing the more I try to explain it. So I'm just gonna leave it at it. It was really good. It was really fun. Definitely more of a summer romance, a little less emotional than some of her other books, but I really liked it. I thought Miles, the main male character, was such a different love interest than I feel like we normally read from. Play Along is on here. I haven't read that yet, but I'm planning on reading that this week, so that's exciting. I guess I haven't read any of the other books on here. Bride and Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood is on here. I would not be shocked if Bride won. That's a super, super popular book right now, or has been super popular ever since it came out. Daydream by Hannah Grace is also on here. That's the third book from the Icebreaker series. I don't think that's the name of the series, but Icebreaker is the first book. That has potential of winning. There's a Catherine Center book on here. There's a Christina Lauren. The second Butcher and Blackbird book by Bryn Weaver is on here. We have Abby Jimenez, Elsie Silver. There's a lot of really good options on here, but I think, honestly, I think Funny Story by Emily Henry is going to win. Emily Henry has a chokehold on the romance community, and honestly, I think she should. She is such a great writer, and I would not be mad if this won. If that one doesn't win, I think Bride by Allie Hazelwood would win, or Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I think those are probably the top 3. The next category is Romantasy. This one I'm not sure I've read any of the books from. I'm surprised that Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros isn't on here after Fourth Wing won this category last year. My camera's gonna die, so I guess I have to record it and come back to this video. What? I guess I'm gonna have to stop recording and then come back once my camera's charged. Sorry. All right, we are back. Okay, we were at Romantasy. There's the newest Crescent City book by Sarah J Maas on here. I feel like that one has the potential to win because it's Sarah J Maas. However, I heard that the Crescent City series just like declining as this series goes on. There's Apprentice to the Villain, which I am actually in the middle of Assistant to the Villain, and I've heard so many people talk about that book this year, but I haven't heard anyone talk about Apprentice to the Villain, so I'm not sure about that one. Phantasma is on here, and that book has blown up within in the past 2 months, especially with the spooky Halloween vibes. That one is really popular right now. There's Quicksilver on here, which I also heard good things about, and then When the Moon Hatched, another one I heard really good things about. I remember hearing about A Fate Inked in Blood, but I don't remember a lot about it. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure on this one because I haven't read a single one of these books. If I had to well, obviously that's all point. Oh, I guess I did hear a little bit about Feybound too. I believe that's another a second book in a series. I lied, it's the first book in a series. I don't remember hearing good things about that one. So I'm curious which one's gonna win. I have genuinely no idea what to pick for this one because they're all ones I haven't read. I feel like saying House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas is almost an obvious one, but then again so many people did not were very disappointed by this one. I might go with Phantasma or When the Moon Hatched. It's tough because I feel like the Sarah J Maas book is gonna win, but then I should just pick that for the winner, but at the same time, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with When the Moon Hatched. Now, listen, if the Sarah J Maas book wins, I can't even be upset. I should have known better, but with all the not bad things, but all the disappointment surrounding that book, I have a hard time picking that as the winner, Next, we're on to fantasy. I doubt I've read any books in this category either. Let's see, we've got, I recognize, okay, wait, we have Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the book that comes after, is it The House by the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Now, that book is, the Cerulean Sea one is super popular. I didn't really hear anything about the second book. But we also have Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, which is the second book in the Emily Wilde series, which I didn't read either of those books, but I really do. The first book is on my TBR, I really want to read it. The Book of Doors, I've heard really good things about recently, but I think that's a book that came out recently, so I don't know if it's going to be popular enough by the time voting ends in order for it to win. But I've heard so many good things about that one that it's also on my list. The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer is on here, and I know her other book, The Wishing Game, was super popular at the beginning of this year, so I'm curious if that one is as popular. I'm in between The Book of Doors and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. I think I'm gonna go with the book, no. Yeah, okay, I think I'm gonna go with The Book of Doors. I don't know what it's about, but I have seen so many people recently raving about the book. That's my prediction. Okay, next we have science fiction, which again, I doubt I have read a single book on here, since science fiction isn't even one of my favorite genres to begin with. Now, I've heard of Annie Bot, not heard very many great things. The Ministry of Time, I know, really popped off on BookTube this year. I saw a lot of people talking about that one. Other than that, I don't really see anything that looks familiar. So I think I'm going to go with The Ministry of Time. Again, it's really the only one I've heard of. and I know a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. Okay. Next category is horror, and again, have not read a single book from here. There is a Stephen King book on this list. Stephen Graham Jones, I have heard a little bit about, especially I Was a Teenage Slasher. I've heard a little bit about this year. There's also Murder Road by Simone St. James, which I've heard a few people rave about. We Used to Live Here sounds familiar. I think I've seen that one as well. But if I had to take a guess, I think Murder Road might win. I want to read the I Was a Teenage Slasher though. That one sounds really good. Okay, next category is debut novel. We have a few repeats. We have The Ministry of Time, The Book of Doors, How to End a Love Story. Definitely a few other repeats from the other categories. First one, I'm not really sure which one will win because it's hard. It's like they're all different genres. They're not the same genre. So I don't want to do a repeat of something that I've already picked, but I just don't know. I think I'm going to do a repeat and pick The Ministry of Time. I haven't read that book, but what I know about it is that basically it is a sci-fi, obviously. It was in the sci-fi category, where they have created a time travel machine, and so they go back in history and find people who are like about to die and then bring them to the present, like bring them to the future and kind of try to assimilate them into this totally different life, you know? And so the main character is someone who works there, and she gets assigned a man from the past who she has to kind of teach how to live in this future time, if that makes sense. I think it's like there's a hint of romance, but it's not as important as the like overall story. I just have heard so many great things about it. I would not be surprised if it won both categories. But then again, I don't feel like I really know sci-fi enough to be able to make that call. So there's that. The next category is a new one. It's audiobooks. There's also some repeats on here. First of all, Funny Stories on here. First Lie Wins is on here. Intermezzo is on here. Just for the Summer is on here. The Woman, the Leanne Moriarty book is on here. So there's quite a few options. There seems to be like a few memoirs, which honestly, those, if they're narrated by the person who wrote it, could win. I feel like those are always really good. For me, thrillers are the best to read as an audiobook. But then again, Just for the Summer and Funny Stories on here, and I feel like those definitely could have the power to like win. I think I'm in between Just for the Summer and First Lie Wins. I think just because I think thrillers are better as an audiobook, I'm gonna go First Lie Wins. Next category is young adult fantasy. I know I've read one of these for sure, which is Ruthless Vows, the second book in the Divine Rivals duology. And that one I gave 5 stars, but I know a lot of people didn't like it as much because it wasn't quite the same as Divine Rivals. Like Divine Rivals very much felt like there was an even split between romance and fantasy, whereas Ruthless Vows leaned way more into the fantasy aspect. So I feel like a lot of people were a little disappointed in it. Reckless by Lauren Roberts is on here, and I think that is a strong contender. I read Powerless, the first book. I did not like it as much as others. I don't know, I feel like even though the banter was really, really great, the world building left something to be desired. And I haven't continued on in the series because of that. I'm sure if I did, the world building would get better. I don't know if I want to put in the time. And I heard Reckless itself was very much a product of second book in a trilogy kind of syndrome, where it's kind of not much is going on. It's just a connector between the first and the last book in a series. So I don't know if that one will get rated very high either, but I feel like it's popular enough to win. Then again, Heartless Hunter is on here by Kristen Ciccarelli. That's actually on my November TBR, and I've heard so many good things about that book. It's an enemies to lovers, witch and witch hunter type of book. I think the cover is absolutely gorgeous. and I really hope to get to that one this month. I think it's in between those three, honestly. Honestly, I'm gonna take out Ruthless Vows. There is a Brandon Sanderson book on here, which is interesting, but it's the 4th book in a series, so I don't know about that. But I think it's gonna be in between Reckless and Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I just don't know which one, because I feel like Reckless is more popular, lower ratings, whereas Heartless Hunter maybe less popular, but a lot higher ratings. I think I'll go with Reckless by Lauren Roberts as the potential winner. If you have not read that series, it is basically it's set in a world where everyone has powers except the main character, who doesn't have powers, but she should technically be dead. Anyone who doesn't have powers were like killed off by the king. So she's kind of been hiding in plain sight, and then she basically gets nominated to participate in these trials. It's kind of like the Hunger Games, but focused a lot more on the romance. It's an enemies to lovers romance, because the main character and the son of the king are both competing in these trials together, and they kind of start something. Again, the world building just really wasn't there for me. The banter was great though. Like, most of my rating went towards the banter and the tension. That was really good. Again, I haven't read the 2nd book. I guess if it wins this category, I will be reading it, but I know there was also a novella that came out in between the 2 books. I don't know. I heard that one was really good. I don't know if I'll pick it up. We'll see. But that's what I'm going to pick. The next category is young adult fiction. So we have a few that I recognize on here. None that I have read. We have Where Sleeping Girls Lie, which I heard was really good. The 5th Heartstopper book, which is a young adult graphic novel series. There's The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is a new series. I think it's supposed to be about the main characters from the Inheritance Games series. I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. There are 2 Lynn Painter books on here, Betting on You and Nothing Like the Movies. I think those both have very strong potential to win. There's also If Only I Had Told Her, which is the 2nd book to If Only I Had Told Him, If Only I Had Been With Him, something like that. I heard the 2nd book this one was not as good as the first one. I have the first one, I haven't read it yet. And then we have The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. And this one I heard was very, very, very good. So many people have been raving about it this year. So I don't know. This one's tough. I know Lynn Painter's young adult books are like beloved in the book community. I know Heartstopper is really popular, especially since they made a Netflix series on that. I think honestly the winner will probably be the Heartstopper book by Alice Oseman. Okay, these last 3 categories, absolutely no idea. Haven't heard any of the books from them probably. I'm almost positive. These are shots in the dark. Okay, so next up we have nonfiction. Again, I don't really see any that I have even heard of. There seems to be a lot of women's health books. Yeah, I have no idea what could possibly win this one. Like, if there was something true crime-y, that would probably be more popular. So at least what I'm seeing is The Devil at His Elbow, Alex Murdaugh and the Fall of the Southern Dynasty, however you pronounce that. That one might be a true crime one. Framed, Astonishing True Stories of Wrongful Convictions. There's one called The Anxious Generation, which I feel like has potential. Now this one, honestly, is kind of interesting to me. Disney High, The Untold Story of the Rise and Fall of Disney Channel's Tween Empire. I was a Disney kid growing up, so that one, honestly, I would want to read. If that won, I would want to read it for sure. I have no idea. I think I'll go with The Anxious Generation because I feel like a lot of people would have picked that up because it's relatable. So I'm gonna go with that one. Next we have Memoir, which is always an interesting one. I like a good memoir. I have not heard of any of these. However, I see a few familiar names. There's a memoir by Whoopi Goldberg in here. We've got one by Liz Cheney, which is a political thing. There's one by Kelly Bishop, which plays the grandmother in Gilmore Girls. I feel like that one could be super popular and be a winner. And then I see one by RuPaul in here. So there's a lot of high profile names. I think because Gilmore Girls is like such a popular TV show amongst a lot of generations right now, I think I'm gonna go with The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. There's a lot of memoirs in here that look really good, and I'd be happy to read any of these. I think I didn't read Memoir last year, but I think I would read it this year. All right, we're finally to the last category, and we have history and biography. I think I read the history and biography last year, which was The Wager. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't like something I'm super interested in. There's a lot of books in here. None that I've heard of though. There's a book about Marie Curie. She's the scientist who like found radium. What else do we have in here? The Situation Room, the inside story of presidents in crisis. That kind of sounds interesting. Ask Not, the Kennedys and the Woman They Destroyed. That sounds interesting. Another one called Madness, Race and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum. That might get a lot of attention. It seems to be about a state hospital. From what I've read, about state hospitals, they never end up good. So I don't know. This one's really, really tough. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go with Ask Not, the Kennedys and the Woman They Destroyed by Maureen Callahan. I think, if anything, the Kennedy name will attract a lot of attention, and that's why maybe it's super popular and it would get voted for. I don't know. Okay, I'm at the point where it's like, hands up, hands off. All my guesses have been made. I don't know. So I guess that's it. We'll do a little wrap up of all of my guesses. These are my guesses for winners. We will see, I guess, in 2 weeks from today, we will find out whether or not I was correct about any of these. My goal is to at least get 3 right. Okay? Just 3. I'll take it. I think my highest likelihood of getting ones right would be from the romance section, the young adult fantasy, and the mystery thriller. I think those are my 3 highest probabilities of getting right, but we'll see. So let's go over my predictions one last time. For fiction, I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. For historical fiction, I'm predicting The Women by Kristen Hanna. For mystery and thriller, I am predicting The Teacher by Frida McFadden. For romance, I have Funny Story by Emily Henry. For romantasy, I have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. For fantasy, I have The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. For science fiction, I have The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. For horror, I have Murder Road by Simone St. James. For a debut novel, I also have The Ministry of Time. For audiobook, I'm predicting First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. For young adult fantasy, I'm predicting Reckless by Lauren Roberts. For young adult fiction, I'm predicting Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. For nonfiction, I have The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. For memoir, The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. And finally, for history and biography, Ask Not, the Kennedys and the Woman They Destroyed by Maureen Callahan. Yeah, that's an intense list. We'll see if I got any of these right. I certainly hope so, but there's a lot of books that were on here that I would really love to read. Like, not only from my predictions, but from the categories themselves that I would love to read and would not mind at all if they won. This was kind of fun. I am a little stressed out because I'm super competitive and I would like to win, but if I don't get any of these right, it's fine. I won't be upset. I won't be that upset, but it was still really fun to kind of predict. Hopefully in the future I can read more of the new releases. That way I have a greater idea of some of these books. And maybe I should start branching out into some of these genres so I can get to know them a little bit better. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!